Okay, so this is now ready to sew. Actually, let me take this off. I was doing some photography, and that is, if you've been to my store, you know I usually have them on a purple backdrop. Okay, now I am using my large eye needle here. Not that I think, yeah, it's the one that I use to bury my threads because I am going to be using embroidery floss for this. It blends in really well. I'm going to use all 6 strands. If I had some crewel thread, I'd probably use that instead, but I do, but it's white. And I'd like this to blend in better than that. So I'm going to, and Mom and I were working on her window, and the second to last screw, I drilled through my thumb at the pad. So it bleeds a lot, and it does hurt, but everything's okay. I can still use it. I apparently cannot thread anything. So let's get my little piece back, because I can't see it. See the hole, so let's thread this. There's a sweet spot in this that I gotta, okay. Let's put this in. Because it's a big amount of thread, double the amount of thread going through, plus this, instead of 4 small little pieces of thread, I've got 6 times 2 instead of 2 times 2. All right. Now I am going to want to bury this. Let's check out what this corner is doing here. It's just got it. So I do want to kind of bury this in. So I'm going to get into the seam allowance part. Now remember, this isn't folded over, so my seam allowance really is just this white. Okay, is just the white part. Making sure it doesn't come up, though it blends really well on the top one. And pull it lightly through until I can find the end. And I am going to, usually I don't, but I am going to knot it. Not a tight knot. I just need like a flattish knot, but a knot. Okay? Not something that will raise a bump. I mean, this is a very, very loose knot. If it was, I mean, it's almost flat. It's just barely there. And I will pull it up to the fabric, up to the poly. I'm going to actually take that off just a minute. Then I'm going to come down a couple more threads. So I'm not going up at the coming back through the same hole, but I'm going to come up around that knot. And remember, it's a light knot because we don't want it to feel bumpy. And I'm just going to go up, and then I'm going back through kind of closer to the tail. So I've got that knot and that tail, and I'm making sure I don't see my needle on the front side. All right. And I had a lot of thread going through there because this is so thick, you do need to kind of be a little bit more careful when going over yourself or through, because it can sometimes pull it through itself. If you've ever done cross stitch, you've seen that happen. Okay, now I'm going to place this back. Let's do these guys, and I want to just check and make sure how these are landing over here. Okay, that's good. Now remember, with the bright quilt, I stitched it in this square. I top stitched it and it went all the way through. This time, I'm just going to hand stitch it on one side. You're not supposed to see the thread on this side of your quilt, okay? This is just another way to do your label. Okay. I want to make sure I am past the white, okay? I need the white enclosed. One, because that will fray like anything. And then I am just going to do stitching. Now I can tell my thumb is right under where my needle is. So I can tell, and I'm going to go around this twice. So what I'm doing is I'm going down enough I can feel the needle, and before it goes through that top fabric, I'm pushing it back up or tilting it back up, coming up to the top, then down. Just before I can feel the needle go through the batting, I push it up again. So I've got top fabric going down through this. I've got 2 layers of my backing, which is fleece, batting, almost to the top one, and then back up through the batting, a little further down, 2 layers of fleece, 2 layers of fleece, batting, 2 layers of fleece. And I've got about, it looks like, 1/4 of an inch, okay? And if you're pretty new, you do want to just check and make sure, because red is going to show up on this black. Might not on this one as much. It's not an exact color match, but I'm going across black and red and some white and possibly some brown in the football. So I just decided not to go down, just to kind of almost like whip stitching it, but I'm not going along the edge. Okay. And right to this corner here. And I'm not going to do anything fancy for this one. It's a baby quilt. I am going to go around twice. So you do 1 row around and then you follow up and do a 2nd row around. That's what I'm doing here. Okay. And I had kind of figured out where my pins, my needle needs to go. Okay, that's right there. I am going to go right down there. And then, so I have kind of pinned where these are, and I just need to take them out. Now, if you have one of these, see, this is my sharps that has the dull and the bent needles. Now, if you get an extra one, and I can do that because I have my extra ones over here, all my testers over here. I'm just going to pick up another one. So if you're like hand sewing and all that, and you don't have your thing handy to hold them, I just keep that handy there. And when I'm ready and I pull out, and I'm not doing more than 2 at once because this is such a thick piece. And when I did, and because I did such a tiny stitch here, it was not wanting to go through. Now, where is it? There it is. Then I'll just go up and down, up and down. Now I've got to be a little careful because here is, I'm crossing over a quilting stitch line, and that brings them closer together. So I'll just check. Nope. One of the reasons for doing such a tiny stitch in that corner was to really secure it. And it might take you a little bit of time to kind of figure out how deep to go with your finger. Let's see, all I gotta do is just put that in there to hold it. And if you get to, what I'll do is I'll have a little sticker to put on your cap, and it'll have a smiley face for the good pins. Okay? So that way you don't have to kind of open it up and see, oh, are these pins crooked or bent or anything? That fell a little deep. There we go. Now, one of the things I did not do, I just unspooled my piece here. But if you've got a small thing like this, before you cut, you could like do this around to measure and around again. And okay, I'm back to the second. So I'll have plenty, especially since I've already done half of one side. But at least measure it out and then add about 6 to 8 more inches. Because when you're doing hand stitch like this, or any stitching, it will pull and decrease of course, the amount that you've got. Okay, this is my half stitch, my very tiny stitch again. And I'm just going to do a single. That was a whole lot easier to get through than the double was. Okay, so I'm going to go finish this off, and I'll be back when it's time to go around. Okay, so I am back at the beginning. Now, if this is for like an adult quilt or a quilt for an adult, this was a quilt for an adult, I'd probably could leave it at this, but this is going to be for a baby quilt. It's going to get washed and washed and washed and washed and washed and washed and washed. One, because it's fleece. It's great to throw on the ground, but it is going to pick up every dirt, every pet hair, everything. It's going to pick up twigs. It's going to pick up grass. It's going to, if they go outside. So this is really just a crib one. But how many times do you think it's going to stay in the crib? No, it's going to go with that kid everywhere because it's nice and it's soft and it's cuddly. So they're going to wash it and wash it and wash it. So I want to go around a second time. The good thing is I can kind of see my stitches. So I've come up, right, this one. And you don't have to be exact because this is fleece. You're never going to really see the edge of it. You just are going to see kind of where it is. Now, this is where it might be great to have, like if it's for fun and playful, of course, I'm doing red because it's got a lot of red in it. Red's the color. But if it's going to be for like a little girl or for a little boy, kind of who this is going for. If you know the baby colors, see if you can find a variegated floss in that color. This is also going to be great if you're doing it with flannel, not just fleece, flannel. Flannel, you can actually see it better. But fleece is going to be a little bit more difficult to see it. Now on this corner, because I did such a tiny stitch on the corner, I am going to back stitch this one just here and anywhere, and probably at all the corners. So I did from the corner, and I came out at the beginning of this one, and I'm going back to the corner because it was such a tiny stitch. I would not be able to find it with this thing, mainly because my thread's doing a very good job at hiding, which is what it's supposed to do for this quilt. Now, if you want, I'm thinking variegated, and learn a couple of embroidery stitches, some different kind of stitches and stuff like that. This would be pretty with like a crow's foot or kind of like a little daisy chain or something like that, depending. But I could see, like if this was pink camo, variegated pink thread, blue camo for variegated blue thread, green camo, variegated green thread. And then, of course, you can do any that go across the spectrums too. I mean, like the one I did for Adelaide, I would have been perfectly, if I had not already been doing the other way, stitching it on, if I was going to hand stitch it, I would have found a floss that had all the colors in that rainbow to stitch with, because I think that would have been great here, and probably done it in like either a blanket stitch or an angle or something like that. I'm not sure what all my stitches are. I just know what they look like. Yeah. And now again, when I'm going through, I'm making sure it's not going to come up. That's a very tiny stitch there, so I'm going to go up to the other one and then come back. That it's not going to come through to the other side. And so far, that's been pretty good. And if you notice, this one's going faster because I already know where to go. I don't have to keep taking the pins out. I have a good stopping and starting point. I mean, I've only got, what, a side and a half to go now. Actually, that's kind of tight there, so I'm just going to do the back stitch again. That's, for times like this, that's why I give myself an extra 6 to 8 inches, is just to pull that together and give me room to do that crazy stuff. Now, if you're going to do a decorative stitch, I would do, depending on the stitch, 3 to 4 times as much around. Because I don't know about you, but I'd rather have too much and be able to finish it than to have too little and have to cut a piece for 2 inches, which I've had to do before. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. Last corner. And coming up. And you just maneuver your quilt around. Right there. Okay. The one thing you do need to make sure of when you're doing this second row is not to, because sometimes when you go through the first one, you'll kind of split the thread and it will start to pull through. So just be cautious of that, and you would just back out the needle. Hopefully you have not pulled it all the way through. Just back out the needle and kind of, when you put it in again, wiggle it around so it goes away from that edge. And hopefully it won't continue to back out. Okay, close to, there I am. Okay, now to tie this off, I've got to kind of go to the center again. So I've come up, I've gone in from my stitching here to this part. I'm not in this label, but I'm in that actual stitch area. And I'm going to shift over another couple of stitches and push it back through, making sure I'm not coming up underneath. And I'm coming to this stitch, and I'm going to flip this up and see, and pull it through here. And I don't want to pull it so tight that it pulls my piece in, okay? Let's see if I can stretch that out. I just want that, because what that is doing is just gives me one anchor. So now I'm going to do another couple of anchors, and I got to make sure I'm not pulling that to do it. I'm just right at my stitch line. So I'm looking to intertwine it in, and I'm checking on the top side to make sure I'm not brought my needle up. Intertwining it along my stitch line a couple of times, kind of like a back stitch style, but that will kind of set that. 1, 2, here's my third. Make sure it did not come across the surface. I'm going to knot this one. Since I'm enough of an away from the edge and I've secured it 3 times around the stitching, I'm going to pull this thread tight, knot it tight, and then kind of time to bury it. And coincidentally, I'm right along this edge, so I'm just going to come up close to that stitching, that's pull it a little tight, snip it, pull it back, and what do you think? There. That looks good. The only thing left to do, if I want to, and I don't think I do, is to kind of nip this. And I'm thinking I would have to do that with a larger pair of scissors. Nope, I can get this. I'm just going to nip it. Now this is where pinking shears would have been great. I'm going nowhere near my stitch line, okay? I'm still about 1/4 of an inch away from my stitch line. Because it is not machine stitched, I don't want to go anywhere near that hand stitching. You just go around and it will kind of match this. Very nice.